So pastors should be paid well, but not lavishly. So here's why I think we should post staff member salaries in churches. That's what double honor means. So it keeps people from being all about money. I think at churches, and I'm probably in the minority here, I think at churches we should publish the salaries, okay? And here's the reason why. It's a sticky issue.
It's a very sticky
issue. And I've had people, so we posted a clip, and I'll tell you, this was one of the most hated clips that we posted so far. But we posted a clip where I was talking about, a toxic honor and how it's toxic honor and it's on the verge of worshiping man.
Yeah.
When you have to stand, give a standing ovation, clap every time a pastor enters the room, you have to call him pastor. I've gotten so much pushback on that from Christians who were like, I call my pastor, and I'm not worshiping, people. It's just respect. It's honor. I've had people tell me I'm reading the wrong Bible. I've had people tell me I'm a false prophet. I'm a false teacher. All of these things, right?
Yeah.
And they use 1 Timothy, I believe 5:17. Which says that, an elder who does his job well is worthy of double honor, right? And they use that double honor as I should call my pastor every time they walk into the room and give the standing ovation and all that. That's not what that means. Double honor in 1 Timothy 5:17, double honor doesn't mean like lavish standing ovations and respect.
Right.
It means double honorarium. The word is honorarium. It means double pay. So pastors should be paid well, but not lavishly. So here's what I look at. Your pastor, every pastor on your staff, if you're a church member, every pastor on your staff should be making more than the average person in that community.
Yeah.
Because of what they're having to carry, because of what they're doing, they should be making more than the average. Because look, most of the time in the community, the average is pretty low anyway, because it's brought down by some really severe low things, right? But if the average, wage earned in my community is $35,000, I should probably be paying that pastor double honor if they're doing well, 50 to 75, right? Now, a lot of churches instead, though, what happens is the majority of their pastors on staff make less than the average, and they can't afford to live in the community they serve in. You have a lot of pastors who have to live in a community 45 minutes down the road because they can't afford to live with the people that they're serving. Now, on the other side, you may have that happening with 80% of the pastors. And then the top level pastors, especially if you're in a big church, the executive team, stuff like that, they may be making 10 to 20 times more than the average person.
Yeah.
Right? So if we post those salaries, here's why I think we should post staff member salaries in churches. People should say, is this at minimum? Are we paying them the average living wage for the community that they're serving in? That should be a minimum. If they're doing well, they should top out at double honor. Double the average wage for the ones that are doing well and have been here the longest, okay? Right? At the same time, so we've got a minimum, the average livable wage,
right?
And as that changes, the minimum changes. We've got a maximum, double honor. Double the average living wage. That's a maximum, so it keeps people from being all about money. Well, then we look and we can say, are they within the minimum to maximum range? Are we taking care of our pastors? It also lets you know, though, if we've got some that can barely afford to live in their community and others that are making 10 and 20 times what the average is, okay, we need to redistribute this a little bit. Of course, the senior pastor who is carrying more should make more than the youth pastor, right?
Yeah.
But they should both be able to afford to live comfortably in the community that they're serving. That's what double honor means, okay? It's not about respect and titles and all those things. It's about, look, you can call your pastor all day long. You can clap it up. You can give him all sorts of respect in the world. And if you ain't paying him, you're not respecting him at all.
Yeah.
Okay? And for some of our pastors, part of the reason why they're having a hard time being honest, open, and transparent is because they're now protecting a major livelihood and brand.
Yeah.
They've got millions of dollars a year riding on what people think, which is part of the problem of why they start holding that back. Again, I think, what do we pay them minimum? Livable wage, average livable wage. What do we pay them maximum? It's got to be double honor.
One of my concerns with posting individual salaries for the public to see, what about the janitor who's there 40, 50 hours a week? Should that janitor be making the livable wage the same as a pastor?
Okay. If we're paying anyone in the church something that is below a livable wage, we should be ashamed.
We should.
even if they're not a pastor. So I think this is it. Again, that range of the minimum we pay a pastor is the average livable wage in the community, but really any staff member, okay? But the most we pay a pastor who's doing well is double honor, double the average wage, right?
Yes.
Then I think if we do that, we don't have to be embarrassed by anybody's salaries. So we can say we as the church treat our people better than the world, but not lavishly. We're handling this money, this tithe money with care. If you have anybody on your staff doing anything and per hour they're making less than a livable wage, shame on you. Shame on you. I had an intern one time. Actually, he started as an intern, then he became a part-time staff member, then he became a full-time staff member. I was never allowed to give him a raise. The systems were built to where I was never allowed to give him a raise because he didn't hit certain metrics, but he was doing good enough to keep his job.
Yeah.
Well, when he got hired on as an intern, we were paying him $10 an hour. Okay, so he's making 40 hours a week. He's making $10 an hour. He's making $400 a week before taxes. Okay, he's getting taxes taken out. He's doing all this. In our city, he could not afford to have a place on his own unless he had 4 roommates, and he couldn't afford to have a car payment at all, right? So he said, Jeff, I can't afford to live on my own. I'm going to get a second job, right? I'm going to get a second job, a side hustle. And the moment he made a mistake at work, I had pastors above me who were going, hey, it's because he's got that second job. You needed to tell him he needs to quit the second job. And I remember telling him, if you want me to tell this employee he needs to quit his second job, then you need to pay him enough in his first job that he doesn't need one, right? Yeah. They refused to do it. And at one point, I had 2 people on my staff, 2 young adults that could not afford to live on their own, not even close. They couldn't afford to move out they had to live with their parents just to do ministry. And I think that's a travesty when I know what some of the others were making. Because at that point, I would have given them part of my salary, So again, I think regardless of whether it's a pastor or not, I think that standard, if we go back to it, Corey, the minimum we pay you is the average livable wage in your community, the zip code of the church, okay? The maximum we pay you is double honor, okay? And you could even put in some things like how, what kind of job do you have? Do you have an executive level CEO type job? That'd be the pastor, executive pastor. Do you not? You can make some adjustments there. Yeah. But if we do that and then we cap it out at double honor for that livable wage, let's say again, the average wage is $65,000 a year in your community. Well, then the max we'd pay our senior pastor is $130,000. Okay. Right? $130,000, or maybe because they're a senior pastor, we give them like the executive leadership bonus or whatever. They're making $150,000. Okay. $150,000 just for that senior pastor is more than enough. We don't have to be embarrassed by that. If anything, a lot of people would feel uncomfortable with that. I don't think we have to be embarrassed if we handle it with care, but even that intern that works 10 hours a week, if you extrapolated it out to 40, they should be able to live the average wage. And if they can't, we should be embarrassed. If we posted it, though, here's what would happen. We would be very embarrassed. Most of us, we'd be embarrassed of how much the top earners at our churches are making, and we'd be embarrassed for unbelievers to see that. And then we would be just as embarrassed, if not more, about how little the lowest earners are making. And that just doesn't look like Jesus to me.